I will f***ing say the dumbest idea ever, because the last time I checked, you can go online and there are some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the world for sale. Anything can be a thing, but you gotta be brave enough to say it out loud and then see reactions to it. Never in a million years would I have ever thought I was going to dedicate my life to something as stupid as salad dressing. That I was gonna liquidate my 401k, f***ing 20 credit cards, do everything imaginable for something in a f***ing beer bottle. One of the best things I did in the beginning was I asked people I knew were gonna on the idea. This all started because I was selling insurance, playing professional lacrosse, deadly afraid that I was gonna be the world's greatest failure. All right. This is going to be a limited series podcast where we discuss my book, Undressed, the unfiltered story of my failed American dream. And we're going to go through each chapter and some of the field guides. I'm going to give my insights on it. I'm going to read some questions and insights from some of the readers that have sent them to me and address any potential questions that I can legally disclose. But this has been an unbelievable journey. I'm very excited to bring this limited series to you. And then depending on the response, we may keep this rolling or we may just end it with the book limited series. So very excited to bring you the Undressed limited series on my book with my insights. I'm Greg Vetter, and I am excited to be here. So this book came to fruition because my life's work went up in smoke, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next and where I should spend my time and what is my purpose? Was I a one-hit wonder? Was the whole thing just the greatest fucking disaster that had ever lived? And I hired a performance coach. Shout out to my boy Fader. And he works with some super high-level people. And I was telling him all the stories of all the crazy shit that I had gone through. And he goes, "You should write a book." And I was like, dude, I'm not interested in writing a book. I'm interested in having an impact, doing stuff that makes me happy, living on my farm, hanging out with my kids and my family and my wife and my dogs. And, you know, if I can make money and continue to make money doing that, then that's what I'm going to do. And so he let it go for a while, and then he brought it back and he goes, "Dude, you got to write a book." I spend 99% of my time convincing people to not write a book because they don't have anything to say and they're doing it just as a tribute to their own legacy. And you got to write a book. And I said, no. But something I do every morning is I wake up super early and I journal. And he planted the seed in my head. And I go, you know what I am going to do, though? I am going to write down this story so that one day when my kids ask me what I did from the age of 25 until 41 and a half, I can give them the insights of what I have. And so every morning, I just wrote. And there was no agenda. I wasn't planning on doing a book. Some days I'd write 20 pages, some days I'd write nothing. And then the next thing I knew, a year had gone by. I had 350 pages written. Fader had asked me another question, and I go, well, if you want all the details of the past 15 years, I wrote it all down. And he goes, send it to me. So I sent it to him, and he goes, are these stories real? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, these are the most insane stories I have ever heard. And I'm in business coaching for super high level people. I thought I had heard it all. You should build out the beginning as an actual chapter and see how it comes out. So I go, okay. So I went back and I wrote the first chapter, Sent it to him. He goes, this is lit. So then I wrote more chapters. He goes, you should find an editor. So then I sent the information to an editor, and she kind of brushed me off and goes, if it's worth it, Salt, I'll call you on Monday, but don't expect a phone call. And so on Monday, she called and goes, I thought I was going to read 3 pages of this and tell you to go fuck yourself. I'm 65 pages in and we're doing this thing. So that took a year, and we found a publishing group, and now we have a book. And so this whole process has been this unbelievable exercise of letting go and just letting it flow if it's supposed to flow, and let it happen if it's supposed to happen. And that's actually how this podcast thing came to fruition. We were on a book tour and people were like, dude, you got to have a podcast. And I said, I don't know if I'm interested in a podcast, but I am interested in a limited series specific to the book. And so here we are. And so just to dig into the book in the beginning, this all started because I was selling insurance, playing professional lacrosse, and deadly afraid that I was going to be the world's greatest failure. There was a bartender at a very famous bar in Annapolis, and I'll never forget it. I'm sitting there. Everybody knows this guy's name. I'm a college graduate. I played lacrosse in college. I'm trying to make it. And this dude's telling me how he played lacrosse in college and how he was trying to make it. Well, he never made it. And so what does it take to make it? Was this my destiny? Was this what I was going to be? Was I going to be the world's greatest fucking failure? And so I'm hustling insurance. I'm like, I got to find my calling. And I don't know what that is, but I know what I'm doing right now is not leading me there. And so every day I would go home at lunch and I would stand on my head in the dark and I would wait for an epiphany. And I had a journal next to me. And if any good ideas came up, I'd write them down. And none of them were actually really that great. But I did this for months. I got a very strong neck. My brain was very saturated with blood. And then I would go downstairs. I'd make a big salad with protein on it. My mom would make me dressing in a 2-liter bottle, and I would dump dressing on this salad. And one day I walked downstairs. Salad dressing's missing. I can't find it anywhere. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm looking everywhere. I can't find it. And so I'm like, fuck, man. Now I got to call my wife and tell her I can't find this shit. So I call her and I'm like, hey, Genevieve, I can't find this giant bottle of salad dressing. And she goes, why don't you open your eyes? I go, the eyes are open. I've looked everywhere. I cannot find it. And she goes, well, maybe someone took it. Someone took salad dressing from our home? I don't think so. She goes, why don't you call some people? I go, I'm not calling people. And she goes, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you, Greg. Goodbye. So I call some people and I finally get to this guy who eats a lot of fast food. I do not imagine him as a salad dressing eater, consumer. And I'm like, hey man, random question. Have you seen my salad dressing? Yup. Woke up this morning, was jonesing for it, hopped on the scooter, came over to your house, knew the code. Now I'm crushing a salad. And in that moment, I knew that was my lightning bolt. That was my epiphany I had been waiting for. I had been reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I was on my 3rd reading of it. I bought the 6-disc CD set for my used Accurate MDX, and I listened to it on repeat 24 hours a day. And I knew the salad dressing thing was a sign. So I called Genevieve. I told her, you're not going to believe this. Smitty stole the salad dressing. I'm going to start a salad dressing company. Dead silence. That's the greatest idea I've ever heard. And so that's how the journey began. And so the first chapter of this book is that story But the interesting part about this book is at the end of every chapter, there is a field guide. And as I reflect, these are the things that I recommend to other entrepreneurs and leaders and people trying to follow their dream. This is what I make aware to these people. And one of the things, and this is what I had to process, which references back almost to The Alchemist, which is one of my favorite books. Be careful what you wish for, and don't judge the package your wish arrives in. Right? So that's the first field guide learning lesson. And the reason I say that, be careful what you wish for, and don't judge the package your wish arrives in. I would have never in a million years thought about starting a salad dressing company. I was praying for a better idea. I was praying for an idea that aligned with me being a 25-year-old professional lacrosse player. I was praying for an idea of how to get rich quick. I was praying for an idea that was sexier than salad dressing, because salad dressing is not cool, fun, or sexy. But what I realized in that singular moment was that was exactly what I had been waiting for. It was an actual lightning bolt moment. It was the idea. I could own a brand. The story was authentic. The dressing was amazing. It could scale. People had always loved it, and nobody could ever replicate it. And so often we pray and we wish for things to happen, and they come, but they come in a way that you're not expecting. And people think that their prayers are going to be answered in the exact Pantone color that they envision. And that is not the case. Maybe I was wishing for an energy drink, or maybe I was wishing for, an invention of some sort. It came in the form of salad dressing. And it came in that form because that was the authentic story that I could pursue the American dream with, and that I could experience everything that I had been praying for. And so I think it's really interesting that my initial journey was a salad dressing story, because never in a million years would I have ever thought I was going to dedicate my life to something as stupid as salad dressing. That I was going to liquidate my 401k, fucking 20 credit cards, sell my car, personal guarantees, leverage my dad's house, do everything imaginable for something as ridiculous as olive oil, lemons, garlic, mustard, and sea salt in a fucking beer bottle. But you ask the universe, and the universe responds. And so that's the first learning lesson of following your dream. The second, omens or signs come when you are open to receiving them and still enough to hear them. The initial idea was good, and I accepted it, but I was also willing for it not to work. And I also don't know if I wanted it to work, because salad dressing at that point, how do you build a lifestyle brand around it? Is that even cool? Is it even worth it? I don't know. But every morning I'd wake up at 4 and I would write in silence, and the answers would present themselves. If you don't find silence, you will not find the answers. It is as simple as that. Your brain is most fresh in the morning. You cannot be rushed to get answers. The only time of the day that you can find silence and not be rushed is at 4 a.m. Just straight up. 5 a.m., you immediately start thinking about 6 and your kids are going to be up and you can't just think in an uninterrupted fashion. 4 a.m. sucks. I mean, you got to be in bed by no later than 9:30 for 4 to work. But if you want the answers or the omens that you are searching for, you must find uninterrupted, non-rushed silence. And that's when you will find your answers. Next learning lesson of the first chapter of me trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this potential salad dressing journey. Be bold enough to say the idea out loud and pressure test it with the people you care about. A lot of people are embarrassed to have stupid ideas. I am not. I am not embarrassed to have stupid ideas. I will fucking say the dumbest idea ever, and I will test it, because the last time I checked, you can go online, and there are some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the world for sale. And a lot of people buy them. Same with movies, right? Snakes on a Plane is a fucking movie. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That dude said it out loud. Someone thought it was a good idea. They got an amazing actor to be in it, and it's a thing. So anything can be a thing, but you gotta be brave enough to say it out loud and then see reactions to it. The first reaction, the second reaction, maybe it's good. You gotta listen, but you also gotta tell people that you know are haters. One of the best things I did in the beginning was I asked people I knew were gonna shit on the idea. I knew they were gonna shit on it, but I wanted to understand their perspective. And so it's like, I had an idea. I knew it could work. I didn't understand the scale. I knew it could be something. I didn't know what, but I needed to make sure that I could commit and dedicate myself to it fully. Because the only way anything works in the world is full, unwavering commitment. Full, unwavering commitment. You cannot steal second with your foot on first. So I started telling everybody about this salad dressing idea. And what I was doing was preparing myself for it to either succeed or fail or have new experiences surrounding the full commitment and identity to an idea or a product or a brand, and then preparing mentally to have people go, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Or that's the best idea I've ever heard. That process is still a process I do for any business I'm involved in. We're launching an alcohol brand, Quenchers. That's how that started. I started telling people, what are your thoughts on think vodka, Gatorade Zero, no bubbles, electrolytes so you don't get hungover? Like, what are your thoughts on that? People are like, that's sick. Some people go, that'll never work. Some people say, you can't say that. But the overall consensus was, that's a great idea. Now, can I make it? Can I find people to make it? Is there demand? It all started with having the audacity to say this idea out loud and being okay with people going, that is fucking dumb, man. That doesn't bother me. That's water off a duck's back. And if you're going to venture out into the wild and commit yourself to this insane journey of any business you're going after, it better be water off a duck's back. You cannot hang on to the bullshit because you'll die. You will be emotionally broken. And so that piece of advice, I mean, you got to be bold enough to say the idea out loud and pressure test it with the people you care about. And you also need to be prepared for them to talk complete and utter shit about your product and brand. And that'll be the easiest obstacle you overcome. So one of the questions I get all the time is, how do you find people that can give you honest feedback that will actually allow you to pressure test the idea with honest feedback? The way to do that is observe who these people are and what are their consistent reactions to everything. And so you know who's negative all the time. I can name 5 pessimistic people in my brain right now that you can go up to them with any idea, and just because it's you and an idea, they're going to tell you every single thing that's wrong with it. I have them in my brain. I also know the people that are the Dutch uncle. You know the people that will give you honest feedback. You know people that tell you, if you ask them a question, what do you think of this outfit? They tell you that outfit looks like shit, or that is phenomenal, or it could use a little work. Behavior is consistent. Now, the hardest one to find is actually the honest supporter that wants you to succeed. Honest and supportive. Because usually people are just supportive or they're just honest. They're usually not both. So the negative haters, easy. The honest people, easy. The supportive people that will give you actual productive feedback, that aren't comparing themselves to your success or trying to hold you back, that is a tough one to find. And you will probably only find, I have 2 or 3 of them in my life. I'm 41, turning 42. There's not many of them. When you can find them and identify them, you can begin to use them as your benchmark and baseline. And then you can find varying degrees of that. And I always imagine like a color wheel. Everybody fits into a little bit of the color wheel, right? The reds are the haters. There's varying degrees of red. The blues are the pessimists. The yellows are the super positives, right? You got to find that balance of honest and supportive. That one's tough. But when you give that idea to somebody and they listen, right? That empathetic listening where they're really processing it, and then they're also engaging you with really good questions, that is very, very important for that process. And if you don't have people like that, go find them. Hire them. Do anything, but you must pressure test it, say it out loud, take in the feedback, and that will help you make the correct decisions. And it will give you really good perspective. I thought the failure of my first American dream that I lived that story you read about, the pursuit of this thing, taking an idea, turning it into something, growing it beyond comprehension. I unfortunately also lived the other side of that roller coaster, which was fighting to save it, losing it, feeling like the world's greatest fucking failure, and then trying to pick yourself back up and press on. And so now still, I'm living a different version of the American dream. It is a more wonderful version of the American dream. It has more perspective and presence, and it's grounded in reality. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do that when the first thing failed. When the first thing failed, I literally thought of that Tom Hanks movie, The Wonders, The Oneaters. And I thought that was it. I thought it was my one song, and I lucked out, and that was the end of it. And the reason I wrote this book was in the reflections, I realized I manufactured all of that buzz. I willed salad dressing sexiness into existence. I could probably do that again with other stuff, which I've been doing. And so now I'm living what I think is the real American dream.
So you had the dreams.
My dreams were wrong.
Yeah. It took you chasing that dream to get to the real dream.
That's how it goes, right? One of my favorite books, The Alchemist, he had to get spoiler alert on The Alchemist. He had to get all the way to the pyramids and almost die to hear the person who was about to kill him give him the insight that he needed the entire time. And he was sleeping on top of this treasure that he was dreaming of. But the journey was required for him to actually come to that realization, get that information, and go back a completely different man, which is the hero's journey. And so I experienced the hero's journey probably 5 separate times where I thought I was going to die. I was fully tested to the max. You come back out the other side and you're a different human being. And so Undressed is the first phase of the hero's journey for me. Those are the learning lessons from chapter 1. We will be doing the same format for chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Greg Vetter, wrote this book, Undressed, former CEO and founder of Tessie Mae's All Natural, co-founder of Alta Fresh Foods, co-founder of Homegrown Brand Accelerator, sit on a couple boards, do some coaching and advisory services to young entrepreneurs, and just currently living a wild entrepreneurial dream still.